Well, you talk about relationships, and it is so true. As in your intro, there is a very strong relationship that people have with their pets. We call it the human-animal bond.
How do we deal with making sure we can take care of the responsibility of a dog, number one, and then the related question is, would you share your thoughts about getting, a dog from an animal shelter as opposed to, say, a breeder or whatever?
Who are you? And where are you going? What do you want? Together we'll find the ideal path on the Way to Wow Show with your host, Kevin Bemmel.
So we have something a little bit different on this episode of the Way to Wow Show. We're going to be working in the relationship realm in the mental pillar of the 3 pillars of attainment. But today, my guest, Dr. Jeff Werber, is going to be talking about the relationship we have with our pets. Now hold on. I know, some of you are thinking, oh, come on, you don't have a relationship with an animal. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the year 2021, and as hokey as you may think it sounds, for some people, the closest relationship they have is with something that's not human. And I think we just need to acknowledge that dogs, cats, whatever, we can actually develop a bond with them, and that bond is important to us. Hopefully we've learned that from the whole COVID experience. So I'm very interested to talk to Dr. Jeff and get his thoughts about this particular subject. But first, our bartender, Will Cutting, is going to make a cocktail.
All right, Kevin. Well, thank you again for having me back. I really, really appreciate it.
My pleasure.
I'm very much excited for today's subject matter because myself, as a dog owner, I thought that I would base something on my own relationship with my dog. So we have a Thai Ridgeback, so I used a lot of Thailand-inspired items. So I've got some Thai basil, some lemongrass, and especially to give it a nice little kick, some Thai chili peppers. So I've already made a little concoction where I've extracted a lot of the Thai chilies and the lemongrass, and I let it sit in basically boiling sugar water for about 10 minutes to pull those flavors out, strain it, so we have this here, what is left. So I'm gonna make 2 of these for you guys at the same time, so I'll be doubling up the cocktail recipes. And the first thing I wanna do is just get these glasses chilling, because we want it to be good and ready for once we're ready to have that cocktail to be already nice and cold and not water it down any more than we already won't have it. So get that guy going. Beautiful. Okay. And now I'm gonna be adding 3/4 of my Thai chili lemongrass concoction. But since we're doubling up the recipe, it's gonna be 1.5 ounces for this. Perfect. There we go. And I am missing one of my shaker's tins. There we go. I'll use that can. Sorry. I am missing the there it is. I left it in the ice bucket, so we're good. Sometimes your small shaker becomes your ice scoop and you just have to adapt and overcome. We're gonna be fine. So from that, we're using 3/4 of lime juice, freshly squeezed. And again, we will be doubling that up for 2 cocktails, so we're going up to a total of 1.5 ounces. Almost there. Beautiful. That. And then I like to add some of my lime and spice, a little bit of a funk to it, and it definitely helps stretch that flavor out, kind of tie everything together. So we're gonna be using Luxardo Maraschino cherry liqueur. And it is a very old recipe, and it's got these beautiful cherry flavors, but a lot of unique, kind of funkiness that ties it all together and just makes something very unique. And I'm only putting 1/4 ounce per cocktail, so it's gonna be 1/2 ounce altogether for both cocktails, and that's all we're gonna need. So I've got the ice in there. I put in several basil leaves in the shaker already. I don't rip them up, I don't mash them down. All you really need to do is just wake them up a little bit and all those beautiful aromatics just come flying off of it. So we just put that there in the shaker with that. After we had the most important part, the 2 ounces of our Los Angeles vodka. I tell you, I always build my cocktails from the cheapest ingredient to the most expensive. So if I ever forget something, often it's the alcohol. So you will know right away. And it's also the least expensive thing that you can mess up with. So that's why I do it that way. But yes, so now we've got 2 ounces of our Los Angeles vodka. We have 3/4 lime juice. We have 3/4 of the Thai chili lemongrass, and then a 1/4 ounce of Luxardo for each cocktail. And again, this one is spicy. Like, I've got some really powerful Thai chilies in there, so I'm gonna lengthen it out just a little bit with some soda water. And we've already got those beautiful flavors in there. It's not gonna go anywhere. It can definitely take a little bit of lengthening. I'm gonna go with just a little bit more ice in this guy. That's great. And it's already smelling just wonderful and delicious, and all of those bright Thailand flavors and aromatics are just popping beautifully off of that. So, a little bit of soda just to lighten it up. It'll probably dampen some of that spice because I definitely like mine with a kick. But you should also give it just a little bit of a mix to make sure those flavors are consistent throughout the drink. And then, because I like it to look pretty and to smell pretty, we're going to put a little bit more basil in there. Again, we're just going to smack it just to wake it up. Get those guys in there. And then let's put a little lemongrass. Why not some Thai chilies just for fun? And a little bit of color. Yeah, that's looking beautiful. So, since this one is inspired after my dog Kaya, the Thai Ridgeback, I have made these, which I have called my little Ridgeback.
Oh, these are beautiful.
Cheers.
Yeah.
I hope you enjoy.
Yeah, thanks so much. They look great. I'm sure
Absolutely.
Dr. Jeff is going to love this.
I hope so. My pleasure. You guys enjoy.
Thanks, Will.
Absolutely.
So our bartender, Will Cutting, made this. He calls it My Little Ridgeback because he has a Thai Ridgeback. I guess that's a breed of dog, right?
Right.
You would know better than me, right? So I don't know. You want to let's give it a try here, huh?
Sure. Cheers.
Cheers.
Oh, it has that bite.
Oh yeah.
Perfect for a veterinarian. I not only I get it from the four-legged animals, I get it from the
For the
drink.
cocktail as well, yeah.
That's great.
Oh, but it's good.
It sure is.
Yeah, I like that. Yum, yum. Okay.
Dogs,
Dogs, yeah.
cats, animals.
Yes. I'm going to read a short biography about you so people know who you are. I'm going to, try not to embarrass you.
Okay.
Well, I mean, a little bit.
A little bit, maybe.
Okay. So Dr. Jeff Werber has been a veterinarian for over 35 years.
Pushing 38 pretty soon.
38, yeah, there you go. He is also a host and segment writer for Pet Care Television Network, as well as for Ask the Vets with Dr. Jeff, his weekly syndicated radio show on iHeart's Pet Life Radio. In December of 1997, Jeff became the pet expert for CBS News in Los Angeles, where he was awarded an Emmy for his pet reporting. I mean,
It's pretty cool.
that's pretty impressive, yeah. He is currently a frequent contributor to CNN, E! Entertainment, CBS, KCAL Los Angeles, KTLA, and Inside Edition. And you are a native Los Angelino, right?
Well, we came here in 1962 because, interestingly, my dad was an actor.
Oh, okay.
So,
Well, so you live here in Los Angeles with your wife. You have 3 grown children. 3 grandchildren, is that
4.
right? 4 grandchildren.
and one on the way.
Another one on the way. And 9 pets at last
10.
count? 10.
10 pets, yeah.
Wow.
Kind of crazy, huh?
Yeah.
Well, it's hard for a veterinarian to say no when you're, I do a lot of rescue work. And when you see that cute little dog or cat come in and it needs a home, how do you say no to that?
Well, so this is a problem. When I was stationed in Okinawa with the Navy, my wife got involved with a local animal rescue organization. I never knew what I was going to be encountering when I got home from work. That we must have fostered, I think, 10 or 15 pets.
It's the best.
But it was, she really enjoyed it. It gave a lot of meaning.
Well, you talk about relationships, and it is so true. As in your intro, there is a very strong relationship that people have with their pets. We call it the human-animal bond, and sometimes that bond is even stronger. You know how many times people have told me as they're signing out from that day's visit, they go, Bowser, I spend more on you than I spent on my kids, and it is true. It's because we have that unconditional love. And there is so much now science about, as a friend of mine coined, the healing power of pets. So when you think about the relationship, it's what they do for us. And it's so interesting. What I find is pets can read us way better than we can read them. And they read our emotions. They can tell whether we're happy, because we underestimate the ability of pets who have a sense of smell that is 50 times ours. We have about 4 to 5 million, or nasal receptors in our noses, okay, and they have about 250 million.
Wow.
Wow. So
so through their sense of smell, they detect emotion?
Of course, and now that's why they're detecting cancer. They're detecting COVID. They can actually, in some sports arenas, as they were beginning to open up, they actually had dogs there that were trained to pick up the scent of COVID.
Wow, that's
and
amazing.
the dogs did better than the blood testing or the saliva testing.
That's just unbelievable.
It is unbelievable, and that's why they become so much of a part of our daily being. I often joke that if I had a bed bigger than a California king, I can get more pets.
Okay. Our sleep expert would say no, but I understand. Our dog sleeps in the bed with my wife and me. Yeah.
So it's to hear this as a veterinarian, I love it. In fact, I have rolled down my window if I see someone driving, and this is, folks, don't do this at home, but when you're driving with your pet, they should be confined to either a harness or a carrier. But I've seen people driving, and their pet is on their lap, and as they're driving, that pet is licking them in the face. And I want to pull down the window and I said, that makes my heart so happy, because I'm a veterinarian. When I see that, that makes me very happy.
So let's kind of get into some of the nitty gritty of it, right? There's I don't know, hundreds of, let's just focus on dogs for now. Hundreds of breeds of dogs, or thousands, I don't know, whatever the number is.
Certainly hundreds, a couple of 300 or so.
Right. So how do we know what is the right pet for us?
There's so many criteria that I ask people to look for. Number one is you have to look at your lifestyle. How much time will you really truly have for the pet? How much room do you have for a pet? And do you have children? Are you allergic? Do you mind if the pets are in your home all day? Do you have an outdoor area for your pets? So the first thing you have to do is, does it shed? Is it allergenic? Is it very active? Am I going to have the time? Can I groom it on a regular basis? Brushing it on a regular basis. I mean, it's a responsibility. There's no doubt about it that it's a privilege to have a pet and share your home with a pet, but it's also a responsibility. Are you going to get help from your kids? Or it's typically the scenario is the kids go, "Oh God, this is great, Mom, we're going to get a puppy, yeah." Meanwhile, they don't do a darn thing with that.
Right.
You end up doing all the walks, all the cleanup. So such is life. But the joy that they bring to a household is great. There are studies now that show that kids that grow up in a household with pets score higher on the IQ test and get better grades and are focused. So as I always say, you're better off getting the terrier than the tutor. Because, and then how about our health? You think about the healing power that brings down cholesterol, decreases our blood pressure, just petting a pet, a dog or a cat.
Just petting it.
Just petting it.
So not even taking it out for walks or whatever.
Petting it will lower your blood pressure. And of course, if you then start taking a walk, so again, I think is get the Labrador instead of the Lipitor, because anything that you can do that's going to actually help. And of course, when it comes to anxiety and people dealing with stress, and in your position, as you know, a lot of stress is going on, especially with COVID, especially in families. And it's not easy raising kids. And that they show that one of the best anxiety relievers is a pet. So get that poodle instead of the Prozac. I mean, it's when you think about all these great things, they really do bring so much into our homes. And I can't imagine, when I see, I'll talk to people with family, family says, "Do you have any pets?" When they hear I'm a veterinarian, the first question I'm going to ask, they go, "No." I said, how do you need to get a pet? It'll change the whole dynamic of the family for positive. And I think it's those that don't have it, I believe, are missing out.
Yeah, I mean, so my wife brought 2 dogs to our marriage, and we've had at least one dog and sometimes a lot more our whole marriage, except for a short period between when our 2 dogs died, and we had to mourn for them, frankly, for a little while, and then get another dog. But even then, she fostered a few dogs,
Right.
and so you talked about the responsibility of a pet, and this is where I have some concern, because it seems like so many pets, people will just go and they'll get a dog, and then the dog is too much work, and then we saw this in Okinawa a lot.
Right.
People were getting sent back to say they just kick the dog out the
Right.
door, right? So how do we deal with making sure we can take care of the responsibility of a dog, number one, and then the related question is, would you share your thoughts about getting, a dog from an animal shelter as opposed to, say, a breeder or whatever?
So the answer is that, first of all, it's all about preparation, knowledge. So it's very important to read up on the basics of pet care. So those certain things that you're just going to have to do. You have to feed it. You have to save some money for veterinary care. You need to take them out for the walks. It's that bonding time. Maybe on a Sunday, take them to the dog park. I mean, there are things that you can do, which, again, if you can get to a park yourself and start throwing that frisbee or the tennis ball, or that's good for your health as well as the dog's health and well-being. So I think preparation and knowledge is paramount when it comes to that. Then don't think that there's nothing in life that's perfect. Mm-hmm. So you are going to have challenges. We have challenges with our kids. We don't return our kids. Sometimes you might think about it, but no, don't go there. And at least with grandkids, you can't send them back home to
Right,
mom. That's great.
Grandkids are seeking revenge on your children.
Exactly. So, so when it comes to this relinquishing these animals, I think in a way it's a cop-out. However, interestingly, when you're dealing with rescue dogs as opposed to shelter dogs, you basically sign something that says if it doesn't work out, mm-hmm. then you bring it back to us.
Oh, okay.
Because they don't want you taking that pet and bringing it to a shelter.
So I didn't realize the difference between a rescue dog and a shelter dog.
Right.
I mean, I probably should. My wife, she's gonna. How do you not know? That kind of thing. But then you also mentioned dog breeders. So, what are the sort of advantages or disadvantages of these different sources for getting a pet?
So first of all, price. You go to a breeder. I mean, you're like cute little Frenchie, right? $7,000. Oh yeah, they're very expensive. But at least with a pure breed dog, you kind of know what you're getting. You can see the parents, hopefully. Now, as a precaution, there are a lot of breeders now that are using brokers. And so you can get a dog from a broker where they've done all the legwork. They've gotten the dog, they get the paperwork, they get all the info, but you don't get to see the parents. You don't get to go to the house and see the backyard and see how the puppies were raised. So it's a bit more of a risk. If you get a legitimate breeder, then it might be worth the money because you get to really see and you know what you're getting. Now, one thing about the rescue dog, it's usually some sort of mutt, though I have seen some really pure rescues too. But typically it's a mutt. And maybe with the mixture of the genes, you're not going to get as many of those normal, typical breed-related problems, the hip dysplasias, the dermatologists, the skin allergies, things like that. So there may be an advantage to these dogs, but then there's also the disadvantage of not being able to necessarily predict their behavior. Mm-hmm. So, that's why if you get from a shelter, which again, I encourage people to find that dog, go to the shelter, take your kids if they're old enough to interact with the dog, make sure the chemistry is there, and then see what kind of guarantee they have. All right. Rescues, as I said, the rescue, the guarantee is if it doesn't work out, we understand not every dog is perfect for every situation, and the relationship may not be there. And of course, we're getting those dogs because we want that relationship, and we know how important that relationship is. But if the relationship benefits are not being fulfilled, then it's time to maybe return that dog, and another dog might help.
So this may be a difficult question. When I had my dog Jiggers, he's a Jack Russell Terrier, he several times needed pretty tough operations, and we were fortunate we were able to, afford the vet bills
Right.
and all of that. What does a family do if their dog really requires expensive veterinary care, and they really, they can't afford it?
You're right. It is a difficult question. Certainly there are some organizations that help. There are people now that get it going through GoFundMe, and they're getting help. One thing because of our relationship with pets, it's very easy to tug those purse strings from people that you see the sad story, you go online, you do a little short video on Instagram or TikTok, and you just win those hearts. And then you might be able to get a little help. Unfortunately, like in Los Angeles, there's no ASPCA hospital, but there are hospitals out there that can and are willing to work. In many, many municipalities, they do have the ASPCA type hospital that can give a major break. There are also third-party payers that could help, that you can apply for. If your credit is decent, you can get the loan. Sure, it's a short-term loan, might be up to 18 months to 2 years, and pay at a very, very nominal interest. So there are some solutions that you can. And then every now and then, there are young veterinarians that might be willing to, on their time off, do a procedure.
Oh.
Right? Because they need the practice. And it might be wise because it's better than doing nothing. Right. And they do it with supervision. And, look, I do a lot of more intricate surgery now, but you don't graduate from veterinary school being able to do that. You got to practice. You got to do it. And it is tough. And there are times when you have to look at the disease itself or the condition itself, how debilitating, what it's doing to the quality of life of that pet. And if that is not feasible to fix, then you have to weigh what you can do. And one of our jobs is to alleviate animal suffering. And sometimes if I get a situation where, for whatever reason, the dog is way too old, the risks of the procedure are way too great, or the ability for the owners to afford a procedure, that it could be life-saving, but if it's a 15% chance, they may elect, let's let them go peacefully.
So I don't want to end the interview on this kind of somber note. So, what would you say to people as this is the number one reason why you should have a pet in your life?
I would say, again, for me, there are about 100, but one of the main ones was seeing the benefits to having a pet, what it does for people, what it does for their psyche, what it does for their health, what it does for their kids' success, their kids' focus. There are so many positives. The few negatives, which would be the expense, the time commitment, the feeding. So that's minimal compared to the benefits. And I can only say to many people, I've had so many people, I hear this all the time. There was a particular family member, typically one of the spouses, that didn't have a pet and was very much against the pet. There's something about pets that they know who in the family didn't want them. And they go after that, and they literally suck up to that member. And before you know it, who is the most important of the household? It's that family member and that pet. So I always say, you see, I told you so.
Yeah, I've seen that happen myself.
Oh, of course. And I can't imagine. Look, I've never been without a pet. Even my high school graduation present, when I went away to college, I went away to Berkeley in the early 70s, and my dog came up with me.
Wow.
And he used to go to class with me. and he was all over campus. People knew him. And I've never been, I grew up into a household with pets. I've had them ever since. Now I have 10. My kids have never been without pets. All my kids have pets. And now my grandkids.
Wow.
So it's great.
Fantastic. Dr. Jeff, thanks so much.
Kevin, thanks for having me. This is great.
I think I could have spent another hour with Dr. Jeff talking about dogs. I really need to get my wife in to talk to him, and she could have probably done an even better job. But I think it's good for us to remember in this relationship realm that's within the mental pillar, not every relationship has to be person in person. There are tremendous benefits to having a pet in our lives, physical benefits, emotional benefits, maybe even spiritual benefits. So I encourage you to think about what Dr. Jeff said, take his encouragement, and if you don't have a pet, maybe do some research and see, perhaps there's a dog out there for you, or some other kind of animal. I know our production manager, Sierra, she has a rabbit. I know, to me, a rabbit is food, but not literally because they're not kosher, but they always seem like, Haas and Pfeffer, right? For all of you who watch Bugs Bunny cartoons. Uh-oh, Sierra's giving me attitude now, too. Well, Rick, we're sailing home in that same boat. Friends, if you think you would make a great guest for the show, or you know someone who would be a great guest for the show, we have a few more time slots open for the second season. Not a lot, but a few. So drop us a line through our website, thewaytowowshow.com, and let us know. Courage at all times, my friends. Marie, you dog lover, you are still my belle.